Hi, welcome. This is the Artist Talk on Art. This is our 31st Monday of virtual open studios. This is our response to COVID, and as opposed to meeting as we have been for the last 46 years on the Lower West Side of New York City, we are now doing virtual talks through Zoom meeting. This one, I'm starting recording early to capture the general conversation that goes on. I'll pause it in a second, and then as people come on, I will just let it catch the casual talk because quite often we have interesting dialogues that I feel are worth recording. So back in a moment. Are you an artist, Gloria?
I'm not. I'm a member, but I'm a resident, what they call a resident patron member, not an artist, just an art patron, so to speak.
Very nice. Obviously an important part of the art world's patrons and people supporting. Hi, Eloisa. How are you?
Hi, how are you?
Good. Nice
Hello.
to see you again.
Thank you. Nice seeing you too.
Did you have a nice week?
Yes. What about yourself?
Yes, very nice. I often say that even though it's Monday and it seems like the start of the week, but I consider everything before this as a whole week.
Yes. Time has now become very relevant to whatever's happening today.
Yes, I guess Einstein was right. It is relative.
It is all relative.
That's true.
Are you in Manhattan?
We used to do our talks in Manhattan, and recently, before COVID, we were right next to the Salamagundi Club. We were at 12 West 12th Street at the First Presbyterian Church. I myself am up in Westchester County in Mamaroneck.
Oh, lovely.
Yeah, very nice. Very pretty on the water here. I enjoy it.
Well, I always loved living in Manhattan. I was born here, but I'll tell you the truth. I envy all of you with your water views and your country places where you can get out and walk and not have to deal with people without masks on, possibly wanting to beat you up.
Yeah, I did my time in the South Bronx. I had a gallery there, and I had a business there, and I used to go in and out and get the best of both worlds. Certainly the culture in the city is somewhat lost in the suburban setting, but like you say, being on the water can be quite inspirational.
Oh, yes. Are you an artist?
I am. I'm guilty.
A painter? Oh, wonderful. What kind of art do you do?
I do a wide range. So I draw, I paint. At times I'd say it's impressionistic. At times I do conceptual work. I've worked on found objects. It's usually relative to like what I'm doing. So when I had a factory, it might be things around the South Bronx that I was involved with and that I found on the street. When I'm living on the water, it might be drawings of the water.
Well, Louise Nelson got most of her wood just walking down the streets of Manhattan.
I'm sorry, we can hear you when you speak, so you sort of trigger the recording. But welcome, Michael, Roberta, Regina.
Hi, Roberta.
Peg.
Hi, Gloria.
Hi, Roberta.
FM mode. Line in mode. Bluetooth mode.
A lot of modes.
What is that?
I think that was Regina, and I just muted her just to make it a little easier. I'll ask you to unmute, Regina. Peg, how was your week, or how was last week?
Exhausting. It's too much to do. Trying to organize all my files I'm doing a lot of very small things. So I have so many images to photograph and file and it's like I'm going to have to start doing big slow paintings again at some point. It's too much fun, but it's fun. I'm going out a little bit and I'm drawing while I go out. And
Very
so
nice.
so it's kind of fun. I could sit in the park and draw and not be near people, and I can go to a dog run and learn how to draw dogs. So that's
while they're running, they won't sit still for you, for sure.
They don't sit still for a second. It's just, but it's interesting to try to learn something new, that I haven't really ever done before. So it's been fun. When I get it all together, I show them to you.
That's a common theme we've heard from artists of all ages, that they're always looking and trying something new And I find that very refreshing to hear.
Well, it's not really by choice. I'd rather go and watch the jazz players, but they're not, I can't go up to Harlem, and I don't think they're playing now. So at least this is very close. I can walk and I can socially distance and I can shelter near home and still get my drawing in. So, it's always something to do. It's good. It's fine.
Wonderful attitude.
Well, I don't want to just sit and do, it's very depressing not to do artwork. And I find it easier to do that than to set up in my apartment and work small, flat on the table. It's just not, unless I have a real project, it's not what I generally do when I'm just kind of working. So at least this is more me, I love to draw, and I use a little bit of watercolor as I draw, and I love to draw people, and not necessarily just not still lifes or architecture. I'm more interested in people and things that move, but these are moving fast, I have to say. They're moving very fast, but it's fun. What's everybody else doing?
I just
I'm
want to
cooking.
introduce Elisa Pritzka. Hi, Elisa. She'll be presenting tomorrow. Elisa's an artist who's new to our group. I'm sorry, next Monday.
Yes, hello everybody.
Hello.
Hi.
Nice
How
to
are
meet
you?
you.
Thank you. I think that I know Michael. I think. Yes, hi. Yes,
Elisa,
yes, thank you for the introduction.
yeah, Elisa, didn't you used to teach with studio in a school?
Well, I taught in many places, but what place did you ask for?
Studio in a school, the Agnes Gunn program. Maybe not.
No there, no.
Okay.
No, maybe somebody else with my last name.
Your last name owns Hyatt Hotels.
I know.
Wow.
Yes, Chicago.
Yes, Chicago.
The governor of Chicago is a Pritzker too. Yes, they own the Hyatts and the Caribbean cruise and a lot of things. Yes,
Yes.
a very rich family.
I recognize that I was in the restaurant and hotel business, so I recognize that last name.
Well, the most important thing that they do within the cultural, I mean, they are very generous, as I know, is the Pritzker Prize of Architecture. That's the most important thing for the arts. So it's like, people that they get, every architect or group that they get that award, they really, they push their careers very, like a high position. And it's, they do it every year, and they have a big panel. I'm not in the panel. People ask me many times. So if you know an architect, don't send it to me. I don't know how they do it. But anyway, thank you for, hosting this interesting group, and I hope to hear from everyone. I mean, I'm open to hear and see how you do it. So next week I'll do something interesting for you.
Yes, I've seen Elisa's art mostly on Instagram, I think it was. And that's sort of how I find new artists. I see the work that I like, and then I reach out and sort of try and bring everyone into our group.
That's great.
It seems to work. Hi, Carol. Nice to see you.
Hey, thank you. Nice to see you.
Could I have a show of hands of anybody who would like to present tonight, just so I can sort of get my list together? If you'd like to present, just a simple hands up will do. Otherwise, we'll have Roberta talk about her art.
Yes. Barry, I want to introduce you to Gloria, and I met her. She's at the Mystery Book Club at the Salamungi or
Salmagundi.
Salamungi, yes. And at the postcard show. So I invited her on because she does amazing stuff. I don't know if you're interested in books, but she reads everything, and she has this wonderful organization on the last Tuesday of the month at 6:30, and she did. We discussed, mystery book, but now we're also doing in the middle of
Videos.
the month, we're doing a movie or video, something on Netflix that everybody could watch. So she's a very
nice.
interesting woman, and there was someone else from the club that is an artist and was going to present. Come on, I don't know what happened to her. Bonnie.
Bonnie.
Bonnie. Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah. Anyway, I'm always passing this information on because I love Monday nights. I think Barry does an amazing job. And I just think all the artists, I'm not an artist, I appreciate it. I just think it's inspiring because even through this terrible time, everyone is doing this wonderful work, and it's so exciting to just listen and see. It's great, and I really thank you. And I know that ATOA, which is a fabulous organization that I've learned to love, and I think if our meetings at the church ever become available again, you'll have to do presentations there because it is fantastic, and we get a wonderful group of people. And I think you're all great. I love Monday night, and thank you very much for coming up. And I can't wait, Elsa, to see you next week. It'll be great. And I'm glad Gloria's joined us.
Yes. Lovely of you to invite me. I appreciate it.
How do you do this, Barry? We send you a couple of images of our work?
Yes. So the format we do is we do screen sharing. That seems to be the easiest. It's really a click of a button, and it gets what's on your screen visible to everybody.
Okay.
We've had some people walk around their studio or their apartment and use their device and hold it up to a piece. That could be a little tricky, but it can work as well. And we've had people take objects and hold the artwork right up.
Okay, yes, okay. Thank you for the explanation. Yes, that's good. I will get up to put some lights. I'm not leaving. It's too dark. I'm putting some lights and come back, okay?
Great.
Okay.
And I have my little Frida.
Oh,
there we go.
Hey, Barry, I have to leave at 6:25 again tonight, but I'll be able to stay from now on next week.
Thanks, Peg, and thanks for coming regularly. Would you like to present a little bit tonight?
No, I'm just going to listen in.
Okay.
But I will present, once I'm able to see how it goes. I want to get my format together.
Okay.
Peg, it's very informal. And very casual. So you could just show us a little bit today if you have the time. I see lots of work in the background, and I think it looks exciting. You could show us a couple of pieces. Come on, Peg.
All right. Well, we'll show you the thing I'm working on.
All right, Peg, let me do a brief intro, and then we'll start with you. Thanks, Roberta. Roberta's our hook. She draws.
Oh, she is. She is.
I just want to say welcome, everybody. This is Artist Talk on Art. This is our 31st Monday virtual open studio. This is our response to COVID. We used to meet in the Lower West Side of New York City for the past 46 years, but now there's obviously no gathering. It's too risky. We found a good solution. We've had presentations from Hawaii, from Venice, Italy, from Indiana, and from parts of New York that are very hard to drive into. We've had a woman who was on oxygen. She could not have really come to a talk on the Lower West Side. And this is something we're going to continue. Hopefully one day soon we'll go back to our New York City location, but I think we're going to continue this as well. It's nice to see some regulars. I want to point out we're a 501c3. We're Artists Talk on Art. You make us what we are. You're artists talking on art, responding and discussing your art. And we're a very positive group. I like to say we're opposite of your traditional college critique. We sort of applaud and we're grateful for what we see. And I like that format. At the same time, if you'd like to support us, there's information on our website to do so. We do have a YouTube channel. We capture all of these talks. And when you have a free hour and a half to watch them on YouTube, you can go to Artist Talk on Art and find us on YouTube. And our website is atoanyc.org. Just a few quick thoughts. There is a chat section here if you ever want to put anything in the chat to let people know your website or any information or even a comment, we can hear you. So if you don't want us to hear you, best to mute yourself. I don't mute everyone, and occasionally get somebody who doesn't realize they're not muted and they think we can't hear, but that will activate screens. Some tricks with Zoom, there are usually 3 buttons in the corner of a person's dialog box where you can pin them and they'll become the large video. And we do tend to work with screen sharing, although just looking around your studio works too. Hi, Lynn, nice to see you. Lynn always gives great advice and great comments to the group. So I think we'll start off with Peg, and if anybody does want to speak tonight, feel free to jump in on the chat, or as you'll see, I'll go around. We are very casual here, but I think you'll find we get very deep into the art. We welcome any questions, any comments at any time, and it doesn't have to be a question. You can make a statement or a thought, say something you like, anything at all, actually. So Peg, thank you for being hooked in by Roberta. I want to point out Roberta is one of the board members of the ATOA. She's actually our treasurer as well. And, you know, she'll get you to speak if you think you're not going to. So thank you, Roberta. Peg, let me ask you to unmute.
Okay. Hi, everybody. Yeah, I have to leave in a few minutes. So I'll just show you what I'm working on now. But eventually, I have a website that I can go through and do a, you know, more inclusive presentation. But recently, like I like to draw on location, but with the, you know, the pandemic, I've been working a lot from photographs. I think a lot of artists are doing that these days. So this is the piece that I'm currently working on. It's a watercolor, and this is 18 by 24. And it's based on a photograph that I took of a scene that I walk by a lot. I walk along the East River, and there are these yellow flowers that always make me feel happy. So what I did was, interestingly enough, I started off, I just painted all the yellow flowers with a white background. And then I took masking and I coated all the flowers and the stems. And then I took a big brush and I just did the background with all the greens. I mean, it was such a release from doing all that tight work. So what I'm doing now is I'm kind of working from the top down, and I'm refining the the flowers.
Beautiful.
So
What do you use for masking?
it's something, I think it's by Grumbacher. Wait a minute. Yeah,
It's just called masking?
it's called Miskit, M-I-S-K-I-T. And the nice thing about this is that it's tinted pink. So when you paint it on the white sheet, you can see it. You know.
So you mask the yellow flowers, and then you
All the yellow flowers.
and then how do you get it off?
You take it off with a rubber cement
Oh,
pickup, you know. It's
Yeah,
very
yeah.
cathartic.
interesting.
I mean, you know what? Here. This is a printout of just the yellow flowers.
Interesting. Mm.
So that was, I'm not a tedious person, you know, I like loose work. So this has been a discipline to paint over all these, but it was a lot of fun to do the
You can
green.
always get the masking as a paper, and it kind of look, this is what it, I don't know, can you see? It looks kind of like this, and it comes in 3 tackinesses. And it's even a bigger pain in the ass than that is. So
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah,
I used that, but I never got it off very
film
clean.
that you rub on. This
Yeah.
you actually paint on.
Right.
I love that. That's much better. Yeah.
What's interesting to know is if you coat the brush with soap, before you start dipping it in the biscuit, then you can clean it afterwards and reuse the brush. Otherwise, the brush is
Gone. Yeah.
so.
Interesting.
So that's, you know, that's what I've been involved in. And I'm also expanding my palette. I used to use a limited palette, but now I'm using tons of different colors,
Yeah.
which are a lot of fun. I'm just trying to use them out of the tube so that I have it in my head. You know, a vocabulary of colors like cinnabar, green light, you know, this kind of thing.
Yeah.
So,
Peg, let me ask you, because I know for myself as an artist, I've always found whatever my palette was or how I got to it, I stayed with that. Would you say your palette has been the same for 10 or 20 years and it's relatively difficult to change, to add or reduce a color?
yes. Yes, I use the same. In fact, kind of in my head, I'm still using that palette and I have all these things, these colors in between. But this is the watercolor palette that I use. These have lids. You know, these are little wells. So I open all these. And I used to just have one palette. But now I have three. So that's been my project. I don't know if I will go back to the limited palette or not. I think I'll just keep the colors that I can't mix and add those. But that's what I love color.
So do you always work in watercolor?
I have for a long time, 30 years, but I started working in oil pastel for the last 10 years. So I've just been back to watercolor for the past year. And now I'm going to start combining the two. Watercolor, you know, watercolor and pastel, oil pastel over it. Don't put the watercolor on top of the oil pastel, I learned.
Why?
It bubbles up in a really nice way, but it's not permanent.
No, but it's like you can wipe it right off and the same way you're using the masking. If you do the oil pastel and then you put the watercolor on, it's like you can fill in around it, not cover it. If it's thin
You
enough.
don't want to put water on top of oil. You know, fat over lean. That would be lean over fat. Yeah,
it won't stay, but it won't stay. If it's just
I've had it stay, but it's a no-no. Anyway, so
no, I'm thinking of it as a wash where it wouldn't cover. It would be like what you're doing now, because the oil pastel acts the same way the biscuit does. You know, it rejects the water if it's a washy enough thing.
For sure.
Yeah,
that's a good idea. I never thought of that. Yeah, you could do like a grid with holes in it. Do the watercolor on top and then clean the oil pastel of the watercolor. You know, wash the.
Yeah, or just sponge it off or wipe it. You know, blot it off a little. Yeah.
I will say our conversations here vary from the gamut where we talk about very specific artist tools, materials, and, you know, like you did, Peg, you literally held up a jar. And then at other times you talk about the more general, what you're trying to do, what art is about. And I think it's playing on that full spectrum that is interesting. I like how you said it's fun what you're doing and you like color. And that's a theme. Fun is something I come across many times in art. It's a three-letter word. It has a lot more meaning than just fun. And you're saying that since the pandemic, you've done this. That is a common theme we've heard from artists. For you, it may be that you've gone to photos. Earlier, Regina Silva was talking about how she can't go watch jazz performers and draw live jazz. So everybody has responded, but it's nice to see how everybody has pivoted and done what they've had to do, and at times found new things that they're doing and involved with. And it's odd to say, but this has been a gateway for artists to try new things, to open up materials, open up media, and open up subject matter and approach things differently. Thank you, Peg, for sharing.
Yes,
Thank
thanks
you very much.
Thank you, Peg. I
Thank
can't
you,
wait
Peg.
to see you next week.
Love your palette. I love your new palette.
Website, you know, in a few weeks. But anyway, thank you. I'm sorry to miss the meeting tonight. I love these. So I'll see you in full next week.
Thank you,
It's sort of that glue or whatever she's using, that Miss Kit. It's sort of like a batik, because that's what they do with batik. They put that
Wax resist.
You know,
Right.
it's the same sort of concept.
It's a resist, yeah.
Very nice. I'd like to ask Lynn. I know you're not with us all the time. Lynn, would you like to present tonight? I know I'm putting you on the spot there as your eyes open up, but I'll give you a brief introduction. Lynn did a lot of work with Rockland Center of the Arts. She's always been an artist, but I have to say I've been lucky to know artists over many years. And when that happens, you get to see how artists change and evolve. And I have to tell you, Lynn has been doing dynamite work, really pushing it, and doing a mix of great expressive drawing, integrating a wide range of colors, which is not easy to do. And I think you've hit an incredible stride, Lynn, in your last, I don't know if it's 6 months or so, but your work is definitely broken out in a way that's great. And, you know, she's been recognized on social media by Jerry Saltz. And, you know, do give a look at her work. You know, of course, art is very opinionated. You'll see if you respond to it. But this is dynamic action work, expressive figure drawing with colors that, you know, somehow she is blending all these colors, and they have a brightness to them. And there's also a sort of somber tone or a dark tone in there, which I think reflects feelings. And so she's getting out emotions, I would say, that are strong emotions. And I think you're doing great work.
Thank you, Barry. Gosh, that's awesome. So what does one do to present? You mean you want me to walk around with the computer and look at my stuff, or?
I would say that's one way, and certainly easy to do. Another way is you can screen share on your computer, and we can look at anything that's on your screen. We will see what is on your screen.
I can, oh, wow. God only knows what might come up. Let me see.
That's what makes it interesting here.
I bet. Let's see.
We're a patient group. I want to thank Wendy for coming again. Wendy List, so nice to see you all the time.
So, okay, well, now what do I do?
When you hit screen share, you should see an option for like desktop.
Oh, shit. Where did you go? Let's see.
It depends on where the pictures are. Like if you're on a Mac and you're showing them on Photos, you know, through the Photos app, then you would, when you hit screen share, you'll see Photos as one of the options. Or if you're just, you're again on a Mac, you're showing it on, you're looking at it on Preview, then you would see an option for Preview.
Well, I was just, can you hear me? Or,
Yes.
oh, wow, that's amazing. Launch meeting, no open Zoom. I'm already here, but I don't see you guys. Oh, okay, so I have, I'm so embarrassed. Barry, what are you doing today? Good day.
Do you want to just walk around and show us what's in your studio? You can do that as well.
Lynn, if you don't want to walk around, you could take 1 or 2 pieces and show us those 1 or 2 pieces, whatever you feel comfortable. It's very easy. We're all here to support you.
I really appreciate that. I really do.
Lynn, I have your Saatchi page open right now, which I could share if you want.
Oh, that's a little older. Maybe go to my
So are we.
maybe go into my Instagram page or, well, let me see if I have enough lights on. Just give me a minute. Give me a second.
Thank you, Michael. That's a great option. If you open up Instagram, you can share it and she can talk about it.
Yeah.
And Lawrence, I appreciate your recommendations too. Thank you, guys. This is
Lawrence, is that a photograph behind you?
Yes, it is.
It looks like the Brooklyn Bridge, is it?
As a matter of fact, you're right.
It must be one of your photographs.
Okay, so.
You got that right too.
Let's see.
This is one of yours, right, Lynn?
I can't see. I'm just, let me turn up this the photographs. I don't know why. Launch, open. Let's see. Can you still hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
We can hear you.
But you can't see me, right?
We can
No,
I
see
can see
Share
you.
screen. You have to share screen if you want us to see.
Oh,
what you're
wow. So I can't see you. So that's.
I can open up your Instagram if you want, Lynn.
Yes, Michael.
Well, I have everything all set up that I could, I mean.
All right, try it, Lynn. Try it, Lynn. And if it doesn't work, Michael will open up your Instagram and then you can comment and he'll just go through the pictures. He'll screen share.
All right, so, but instead I'm going to go around with my computer and kind of show you what's around.
Sounds good. Sounds good.
Okay, so I can't see you. That's okay, you can see me. So, okay, I can show you what I'm working on right now. And wow, this is really weird to do this without knowing what's going on. Okay, so this is a piece, can you see it?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, so that's, it's really big, and I have to say that when I work, not that I usually work this big, but when I work this big, I get overwhelmed with the paint. But this is, the paintings that mean the most to me are kind of like the highlights of living alone and being by myself. And this is myself with two other of me watching the elections that night. And unfortunately, I started it. I went to my mother's for the weekend. The election was decided, so I kind of lost some of the angst. But I think I'll still be able to bring that back. And I I have been trying to work with the sponge brushes that you see at the hardware store.
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
Lynn,
So
are you working in oil paints now?
it's all oil. Can you see it?
Yes.
So it's completely different. And I do some painting of colors that make absolutely no sense. Because it's funny, you were talking about colors. I was really in a rut for so long, and now I take photographs that have nice colors or colors that I react to, and I use those colors as the palettes. Because God knows, every time I start a painting, it would be, here's Prussian blue. And here, you know, it was always like the same colors I would start with. Can you see this?
Yes.
Can you see it good enough, or is it dark?
No, it's very good. Very good.
So that's I did that. It's actually, I took photographs of my son with his girlfriend in my bed, and they let me get right in bed with them. And it started to be a series. I know, I feel so, it's so nice to be around people that are like so in love with each other. And it was a really great experience that they trusted me enough to do that. And actually, here's some of the reference material. Can you see it?
Yes, yeah.
Yes, we see it all very well.
Okay. This is a painting I did. And can you see it?
Yes, we see the bottom
Yes.
half of that one. Perfect.
So that is the woman in the back. I use reference of my son's girlfriend. I started it, and then I had worked on it for about 3 days, and then Ruth Bader Ginsburg died. And I added the figure in the front of Ruth Bader Ginsburg, kind of like a ghostly white. And that was recently in a show in Long Island City. This one, can you see this?
Yeah.
Very well.
Okay, sorry. Yeah. I got to, I have to, like, that has a long way to go. And then in here, let's see.
I will say on Instagram, Lynn often posts, you know, an image of her work in progress, and then as it's progressed more, and as Michael has spoken about, the sort of dynamic of the art evolving can really be seen, and the choices she makes along the way, she really does capture it on her Instagram.
Yeah, because I take pictures of everything as I go. This has been, yeah.
Lynn, are these on paper or canvas?
They're all canvas.
Uh-huh.
And I'm really I'm new to it. I'm not stretching it. I do it on the, what is it? Homosote, yeah. And this is my room. And I know it's really dark, it's hard to see. And I had painted that bridge. The bridge is right out the window. Can you see it, or I bet it looks tiny?
No, it's tiny, but we do see it. We see your view.
And it's funny, I've painted that bridge so many times, and only now do I feel comfortable with it. When I first did it, it kind of looked like a 1960s hotel painting of a bridge. So I had to keep going back into it. And then I have one other under here. And this is a perfect example. I was really trying to push the concept. Oh, well. Just 1 second. And then I'm done because I don't want to bore you guys. A color that I never, ever, ever use is green. Because I always think when you paint with green, it looks like salad. And let's see here.
And you got a problem with salad?
She's a meat eater.
Yeah, you know, it's more like if you use green out of the tube, it looks like salad. So I did this painting, trying as much as I could to mix the greens, and then I was also all very like into the whole plant-based. And all right, okay, these are plant-based dancers in the forest. And then it became a forest. You see it?
IE mode. Bluetooth mode. FM mode. Line E mode.
What is that? And it eventually turned into like, I had to put it in a place and it became a forest. So everything just kind of like happens. I stay very spontaneous in the moment and I take lots of chances.
Very nice.
So,
I would like to point out, Lynn is also a singer as well. She is multi-talented, and it's very rare somebody can do music and paint. It is very rare.
It's all the same. It's all the same. It really is.
I don't know about that. I've tended to, I've seen what Paul McCartney does for paintings and what Bob Dylan does for sculpture. And usually they're very good at one, music, and they're very bad at the other. That's what I think. I actually think it must be different parts of the brain, though I have no idea. So I think it's very rare. Richard Butler of the Psychedelic Furs
Right.
paint very, very well. But again, it is very rare. And David Byrne from the Talking Heads has crossed over and is involved as a painter. But in general, McCartney and other musicians tend to draw the musical instruments in a somewhat expected way. And it doesn't really rise to a certain level of art that their music does. So I think it...
I honestly think that it's really about time. And what's interesting, Barry, is you're saying all these nice things, and all those nice things really, I guess, started for me when I let go of the singing. So it's not part of my active life right now, and it hasn't been for about the last year. It was just too stressful.
I will suggest to you that your painting might go even more fluidly if you are also doing your musical art. I started as a musician. That was my art for many years, and I still do play. And if I'm working on my art and I'm stuck, then I pick up the guitar or I pick up another instrument, and then all of a sudden I'm unstuck.
I'm never stuck.
There we go.
I'm sorry. Yeah, it just flows. It's like a fountain. But I appreciate that.
And we did have another artist mention earlier how much you have to do to catalog your work and do everything, that maybe respond to shows. And so adding in another art form can make it so that you're spread a little bit thin, just like we all maybe need income, and adding in a job, of course, takes away time to do your art. So it is balancing time. And I think, like we always say here, it's what works for you. For you, Lawrence, it might be one inspires the other. For you, Lynn, it might be that stopping one has pushed the other to another limit. And I think it's all, we're all unique like that. Again, there's no one path. There's the path you find that works for you.
Yeah, it's nice not to live in the anxiety anymore.
Well, but could you do it without it having to be a job, you know, where it was just a means of expression? Maybe that takes the anxiety away.
I'm kind of in between right now. I mean, it's not my full income. I don't want to, you know, give anybody that impression, but I have a very hard time with the administrative part of sending work out, and I've been working forever trying to do a new website, and I'm like, it's ridiculously hard.
Well, Lynn, I just want to say, I don't know if you remember me, Wendy, but you haven't been here a lot of weeks, but the week that I presented back in the summer, your words meant a lot to me, and you really helped me to gain some...
The sculptor?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, hi. I can't see you. I'm going to come back in. Okay. Oh, that means...
Yeah, so I haven't seen you for a while, and I've been wanting, since you're here and we're having this dialogue, I just want to say your words really did help free me to be more spontaneous and be in the moment like you're talking about, and let go of the idea of having to sell things or be commercial, or you said something that when people compliment or like what you do, or if you sell things, that can be even more confusing because you think you're supposed to go in that direction, and maybe your soul doesn't want to go in that direction, but your head and your bills think that you're supposed to go in that direction. And that dialogue really helped me be more productive and freer in these past couple months. So thank you.
Wow, thank you so much. Wow, that's really sweet. If anyone is really into like Cecily Brown or that kind of painting, it's beyond me. I have never heard such a good or wonderful podcast or hear an artist speak so eloquently as she does. And there is a podcast called the Great Women Artists Podcast with Katie Hessel. And I would, yeah, if you get a chance, you know, look it up. But she really knows her shit about paint. And it really is, it's the material. And when somebody was talking about the oil, the crayons, I just remember ever since I was a little kid, remember the light blue one? That light blue color crayons? It was always the softest and the smoothest. And I guess you know that crayons, you can also thin it down with turpentine.
I do want to pick up on a point you made earlier about stress and anxiety. There's a thought that you almost need that anxiety and stress to put out important work. And it may not be true. Obviously, Monet doing his work at Giverny was pretty much stressless. But I like to say, what goes on in heaven? What kind of paintings do they make there? And it's obviously, they'd be very boring because everything's right. And it may be that art needs stress. It needs Germany and its problems to create great work. There's a great line in The Third Man where Orson Welles makes reference to Switzerland, where everything's going right all the time. And what have they done? They invented the cuckoo clock. So you may need that stress and anxiety. Of course, it's painful. And sometimes it's pain that propels art to sort of exercise the problem out and create a great visual expression.
You know, Barry, that's so right on. That's so right on that it's not even funny. You absolutely hit the nail on the head. No, seriously, because I do find myself that, you know, I make nice things, I post them, they're nice, but they're not great. And when I try to make it great, not that I'm not saying what I'm doing is great. You seem to think it's great, so I'm talking to you. But
it is, by the way. Look at her Instagram. She hit a great stride. There's no question about it. And sorry for putting you on the spot here, presenting when.
Oh my God!
I know, but I thank you for sort of rolling with the punches.
But I do want to say what you just said. There's something about that insecurity when you just say, what the fuck, and this is how I feel, I'm going to just make this all this, and I'll go to sleep. I'll be so upset. What the fuck did I do? It was good enough. Why, you know? And that's when you take it from there and you make it work. There's something about work that is so comfortable to make. And it's very like, oh, this is lovely. Look at this. And oh, this is lovely. And I take a picture of it, but it's just like not enough. And so you're absolutely right about that pain. And
I have a slightly different take on that, honestly. I don't know if I agree with that. I think that negative energy.
It's not negative. It's anxious because I'm worried. You know, I fucked it up, or I'm not. It's a. Well, go ahead.
Okay. Okay. When I was a kid, I was convinced when I was in college that the only way I could be a good artist is if I was a manic depressive, because my teacher was a manic depressive, my other teacher was a manic depressive, and I liked their work. And seriously, when I was 19, I was convinced that if I wasn't manic depressive, I'd never be a good artist, because I had to be so unstable that to truly express something that was transcendent, I'd have to be so unstable for that to manifest itself. And it took me 10 years after that to kind of realize what that was really folly. And it took 10 years for me to realize it, because I was searching for that moment of inspiration or passion, and I was totally screwing with my head. And then for the next 30 years, I spent time learning that was just me forcing myself to try to do something that wasn't me. You know
to be a manic depressive?
Yeah, like I felt like I had to be so unstable because I had to destabilize my ego to the point where I was just so screwed up that I would create something brilliant. And what I realized that all that did me was make me really screwed up. Serious.
Well, I am a diagnosed depressive, manic. It does go. I take medications to take care of that. And sometimes it does break through and things get bad, but I think that idea of that you need to be depressed to be a good artist, I think that's sort of a cliche.
I would like to,
Yes, go ahead.
sorry, no, I want to say that I'm sorry that I don't remember the name of, I will say not an art critic, but I saw a wonderful graphic the other day. If I find it, I will share with the group all the areas where the arts come. It's just a wonderful graphic that, like Michael says, sometimes it was like from here to the top. It was more like a meditative art and futuristic ideas of what will come when it comes from here, when it comes from this area, and they are all valid, but it was a wonderful graphic saying that if it comes from this area, sometimes it's like, all the anger and anxiety, it goes sharing all that you have inside to the world. And if it comes from here, it was a fabulous analysis that they are all valid. I don't think that you need this, or that. We are all different. But if I find that graphic and that analysis, I will share definitely with you, because this is the first time that I saw that every artist can create from a different perspective and from a different energy. That was really the energy that the artist and where it comes. Sometimes it comes even from the mind, sometimes from like inner self, like intuition. Some people are more like intellect, like this is what I want to do, this is what I want to say. Other people don't think, other artists don't think, just create from intuition and all that. And it was a very clarifying graphic that I thought, really, we are all different and there is no one better than the other. It's just we create from a different story, from a different background, from a different moment in life, and we change also over time. It's not like always doing the same, but I think that Michael is right, Lynn is right, Barry is right. Suddenly I don't think that it's a wrong way to create. That's what I wanted to say.
I think it is important to not be self-conscious and to just paint and make what you're going to make with no preconceived idea of what you want it to look at, because that's a big that's like a big fence to stop you from getting to where you want to get. I think those kind of things, the angst, you can't sit and say, okay, I'm really mad today and I'm really anxious and I'm really upset, so I'm going to do a painting about that. No, that's not how I work. I could probably paint a teacup and it could get pretty angsty depending on how the day is for me.
I agree with you. It's not about thinking, but it's after you do the work, maybe you can understand from what place it came. That's what I'm saying. Because, when you see some periods of art that people are more intellectually oriented, that that they think about what they want to say. There are periods of art that is not an expressionist or expressionism, but is more intellectually oriented, or minimalism, or there are so many different expressions that and they all every artist is contributing something different. So I think that it's important that you be honest, and it comes really with passion and honesty, and that is, you know, what it makes all of us saying something different.
Yeah, but also I believe that within the process of making a piece, it's not just one way or the other. You can have an intellectual idea and start with that, or you can just have this, you know, feel out of control and have like a deep emotion that you want to express initially just to get something down. And then you can step back from that emotion and then start to work with it more, you know, intellectually, critically, and make decisions. And then, you know, like I find throughout a piece, I go through a range of emotions, feeling out of control, sometimes like what am I doing, you know, expressing something, and then it starts coming together. I'm like, oh yes, I just need to refine this and leave that and do this or that. And then I start to, you know, so it's like, I feel like I go through an entire range of, you know, where it comes from the head, it comes from the heart, it comes from the soul, you know, it's physical maybe at the beginning because I do sculpture, so it can be physical, you know, emotional. So I think for me, that's where the answer lies. And like, how many of those things can you tap into throughout the process of one piece?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's what I was maybe explaining, that we all work differently. You have a, you know, artists that they do think before they plan. Even pottery, like, you know, ceramics, you can do, you know, depending on the medium too. Because in ceramics, I don't do ceramics, but I know about ceramics. I did in my early teenager times, and you have to plan certain things. I mean, besides the expression, you have to plan the technical part of it, and, you know, depending on the medium. And Marcel Duchamp was one of the examples of a thinker, you know, in a period of time. So, you know, everybody contributes differently. So that's what I wanted to say, that I don't see any wrongdoing in a way of working.
I like that thought, Lisa, and I think you make a good point. Passion and honesty, you know, being true to yourself, whatever you're feeling. And like Lynn says, maybe not looking at the feeling, but being the feeling.
Yeah, exactly.
And
that's why I agree with Lynn. That is not about thinking I'm angry and I paint. No, I agree with her that the anger takes you to the place. It's not that you're, you know, takes you to the action. That's
and
what
Michael, to your point, it wasn't just your teacher who gave you that impression. The history of art from like the 50s on, the impression was put out that you had to be crazy like Van Gogh. So your teacher got that. Think of The Ecstasy and the Agony, I think was the Michelangelo title of the film. And artists being portrayed as wild nuts. It actually was in the zeitgeist, and that's why your teacher was pushing that sort of idea. Elisa, you make a good point when you line up and make these points on the body. They're both like chakra points that you could work out of, and the sferot in Jewish mysticism. And there are different centers in your body that you can work from. And obviously, as an artist, we're putting it on paper or into sculpture, so our intellect is there. It has to be, otherwise you wouldn't make an object at all. I made reference last week to a film, and I looked it up. It's called Painter's Painting. It's a 1973 film, and in it, it goes through the New York School from about 1950 to, let's say, 1975. In it, Painter's Painting is worth seeing because you see the artist speaking and you really get a sense of who they were. But to the point that we've been making here, one of the pop artists, I want to say it was Frank Stella, who was quite a genius when you hear him talk. He makes the point that the abstract expressionists would make this great gesture in the middle of the canvas, and that would put out a sort of a great thought. but then they'd sort of have to resolve it within the corners, and all the other work they did sort of lost the energy of that original movement. And it was an interesting point that they came at it, but then they had to sort of corral it, and maybe to their disadvantage. Watch that film just to get an idea of who these artists really were. And also you have the collectors in there, Scully's, and you learn John Chamberlain was a hairdresser making $100 a week. And I think Larry Rivers was making $25 a week as a short order cook. And their original sales really gave them time to do work. And the struggle that was going on, you see them all as individual artists, not as a group. Pop art loses almost all of its meaning as a title, and you realize these are all different artists sort of trying to do different things, just the way the abstract expressionists maybe were, but Clement Greenberg sort of corralling the ideas and throwing out the dictums that they had to follow. It's definitely—
Barry, where can one find that film?
I saw that film on Amazon Prime, but I imagine today you can go on YouTube, Painters Painting, and
I think actually, Barry, it's on Canopy.
Okay.
And Canopy is a free service through your library. And if you're going to do that, and if you're going to go and watch that, which I've seen a million times, you have got to see the Philip Guston one. It's about an hour, and the last 45 minutes is of him talking and painting, and it's mind-blowing. It's wonderful.
I'm sorry, which one? Can you please say that again? I could not hear you. The name of the film that you just mentioned? Philip Gusman?
Oh, with Philip Guston? I mean, you just do the search in Canopy, and that's the one that'll bring it up. That's the only one that they have on Philip Guston, I suppose.
I think that it is no Philip Guston, the ones that you mentioned, Barry. I think that is also on YouTube.
It's two different movies. These are two different movies. The one with Philip Guston is just Philip Guston, A Life Lived.
Yes.
Hey guys, who is the lady that just passed out?
Somebody passed out? Oh, Carol.
Someone passed out.
I'm hoping she's napping.
Oh, shit.
Oh.
I can't.
I'm hoping she's napping.
Carol, are you awake?
Carol.
Can you unmute her?
Yeah, all right, we saved her life. Nah. That's all right, I unmuted her. Again, that film Painters Painting, it's Antonio, not Antonioni, the famous filmmaker, but Antoni is the name. But you know how it is with the title today. And yes, it's on multiple platforms. It is very, very easy to sort of find.
Okay, great. I'll look for it.
Thank you. Yes, Eloisa?
Hi, I find this very interesting, those commentaries. And I was just thinking is also the other part who is viewing, that they bring their baggage to the interpretation of the emotions that somebody is putting in the painting, because somebody can be thinking of something and then doing the work, thinking that they are projecting their emotions, but then somebody is going to look and interpret in a totally different way. So I think there are many phases to that. That's all I was thinking.
Yes, and sometimes the interpreter sometimes has a clearer view than the artist creating. At times that can happen. And again, that's how art is a two-way street. I don't think beauty is in the eye of the beholder. I think that's somewhat of an ignorant statement. But I think there is this sort of, we put energy into the work with sincerity and honesty, and then the viewer gets that out as long as they're truly looking and they're open to seeing. And that's the communication, that's sort of the coming together of the creator and the viewer in a very beautiful relationship. And we are humans, so we are going to hit the same emotions, the same intellect. We're not going to be a banana. You know, we are humans, we are sapiens, we all share the same sort of feelings. I think John Lennon said something like, anything that can be said has been sung, and I'm paraphrasing, but it's the idea we are all very much alike. This is great dialogue. I do maybe want to go on to one more presenter. Larry, do you want to try? Give it a shot tonight?
Wow. I have to get up and get some things if that were the case. Sure, if nobody minds, I'll just tell you quickly who I am. Let's see. I came from the world of advertising. I'm one of an original madmen. But I studied art before I went into the ad world. And back in actually it's 2012, I was going to say a little bit beyond that, I chucked it all and decided I wanted to go back to what I always loved. And I went back to painting and drawing. And I never looked back. I've had a great deal of success. And you could determine whatever success is in your own mind, whether you call it financial, shows, whatever. But it's been terrific. One of the great things that has happened to me with my art is I used it and I've been able to take it to a point where I now teach on the #1 riverboat cruises throughout the world. So I travel the world teaching both portrait art and watercolor. This year, of course, I didn't travel at all. Wish that I could. But so that's what I do. A lot of my art is realism, and it is a combination of both series that I just finished. Many of you seem to be my contemporaries in some way, shape, or form. I'll be 76 next month. But
slow down.
I said in some way, shape, or form.
Within 50 years.
Just a year. It's just a number, and you take it for whatever it's worth. What happened to the latest thing that I've just been doing is I grew up in the late 40s and 50s being completely in love with comic books. And I was also in love with cars. Many of you may or may not be familiar with what the cars looked like in the 50s and into the 60s, but they were pieces of art. And so I'm going to get up and walk away for a moment, and I'm going to bring you back one of a half a dozen different pieces that I created. The pieces are, I've titled it Living Memory, because in effect, it really is the combination of my living memory. What they are all painted in acrylics, and the art is made to look like comic books, but once you see the art, you'll then imagine who the person is in the art. And so excuse me for 1 second. Yes, Lynn?
Go ahead, Larry.
Okay, so excuse me just for one moment.
Thank you, everybody, for your input. It's made for interesting dialogue. And obviously, all these questions are never really answered in the arts. The best questions don't have answers, and we just sort of go around them. But I think we do hone in on it, the importance of being true, having energy. But at the same time, you could say it's important to be selfless and to have no energy and become a part of everything. So whenever you try and corral art into one definition, it's odd, but always the opposite of what you're saying makes sense too. And that's a crazy thing in a way. And my whole life, I've always tried to define what is art and come up with this definition. And I just always see, I could say 180 degrees the opposite. And that sounds almost better at times. So it's...
So, Barry, I love that. So, ladies and gentlemen, let me just start this by starting on one side and rotating for you, okay? So, I don't know if anybody could see up close what I'm trying to show you. Let's move this a little closer. I have this on a swivel chair. So, as you can see, it's got a very, very comic book feel to it. I wonder who the guy is in the white hair. Okay, and as I turn it, can you all see what is protruding from the edge?
Rocket?
Exactly right. That's the hood ornament from a 1957 Chevy. And of course, the piece is titled Chevy, Hurry, Blast Off, as if you're looking at comic book pages. So this is one of a series of 5 that I've completed. And each one, of course, is a reference to my combination of having grown up in the 50s and the 60s. So this is one area that I've been exploring. The feedback has been wonderful. Either you like it or you don't like it. And somebody who is a comic book person looks at it and says, gee, I get it, and it's very fun. But this is something that I like to call, as I said, my living memory. So this is one thing that I've been doing. And can I move on? Should I show you what else I'm doing?
Yes, please.
Okay.
Sounds great.
So everybody is familiar with the mixing of media. This piece is one of about 40 different portraits that I've done that use a combination of watercolor and pastels. I don't know if you could see that.
Perfectly. Very nicely done.
So, I mean, this is really just a recent piece. And each of these, believe it or not, I do in about 2.5 to 3 hours. The process is, as I call them, they're improvisational pieces because I have no idea what the portrait is going to look like before I start it. What I end up doing is on very high-end watercolor paper, I paint a series of improvisational feelings on the paper. A mixture of color, a mixture of energy, a mixture of design, and I'll go to a class with a model and I'll end up having 3 or 4 different ones in different color combinations because I don't know who the model is going to be. Then what I do is I allow the model to influence which piece I end up doing. So this is how this one happened. And I don't know if you could see some of the watercolor in the way it is applied to the portrait itself.
Beautiful.
If anybody wants to see a great series of them, my Instagram is my last name, which is Aaron's Creative. And then you can see that. And my website is larryaronsart.com, in case anyone is interested to see some of the vast array of work that I've been doing. So those are just 2 of the areas that I've been exploring. I started off, as I said, doing watercolors when I went back to the world of art. And in doing so, I just felt a communication with the medium. I felt that the medium was very much a part of my hand, not as if I was forcing the medium to do something that I was uncomfortable working with. And again, I've been very happy with where I've been. I'm extremely happy with how I've approached art in all of the different phases that I've done it. I started off by saying that, and I'm sure you all have as well, we've all won awards and we've all won this and all that. And but for me, it's been a great, great road that I've found myself on not too long ago. And it's a road that I see that's wide open. And I really love looking at everyone's art. Some pieces I enjoy more than others. And as I said before, I've traveled the world to just about every museum that exists, looking at so much art. I'm astounded by how much stuff is in museums. And that's the stuff that you can only see. Has anyone here been to Russia to see the Hermitage? No. It's gargantuan. One of the wings you could fit the Met into. Wow. I mean, you don't realize how big it is. And 90% of the art that's in the Hermitage is not even seen. It's all buried and hidden away.
Wow.
It's usually 80-20 rule comes into play.
80.
Oddly enough, at least 80% of the
It's hidden.
collection is in storage in most museums. That's
Right.
a whole nother issue.
Oh.
Yes, it's very
So-
true and very sad in a way.
Well, yeah, but you can't put it all out. I'm hoping to get to the Met in the next couple of weeks to see their 150th anniversary show. Has anyone seen that yet? No? Okay. They just opened it up last week. You know, this is from all of their personal collections of stuff that they've brought forth, and, you know, they've put it together as their show for now. It's, I think, on till January or February. I'm not sure.
I saw that. I saw a bit of it.
Yes? How did you like that, Michael?
It's really interesting. Well, they have they have decades. They'll have certain thing to try to tell the story of the museum.
Right. Okay,
It's-
cool.
yeah.
Cool. So can I ask a strange question? There's, you know, 12 wonderful people in front of me. Can I just start looking left to right? What do each of you do? Are you a painter? Are you a sculptor rather? Mixed media? So I have a sense of the vastness of talent that's in front of me.
Let's see, Eloisa, painter primarily?
Yes, I was trained as painting and drawing at school. And then I wanted more, so I diversified my practice. Now I'm interdisciplinary visual artist with painting, drawing, collage, and ceramics.
Nice.
And,
Where
yeah,
would I see your work?
I have a website, and I will put on the chat if you would like to check it out.
I want to see everybody's art. Sure, by all means.
Yes.
Michael Krasowitz. Michael, a painter, but a painter on clothing, a painter on just about anything. Am I correct?
Yeah, I started as a photographer. Then I did printmaking for many years. And I was pretty much just doing printmaking, monochromatic. And then about 25 years ago, I started painting. So right now I'm primarily painting on canvas, but I also paint clothing, and I'm always interested. And I did some ceramics last year for.
Great, wonderful.
And I think Michael started to incorporate the performance and the act of his painting as the object, correct?
Yeah, I'm trying to incorporate performance. Actually, we're having an idea. I think we're gonna, there's a place over by Bethesda Fountain. There's like a long walkway where they have all the sculptures.
Yes.
Oh,
I think Wendy and I are gonna line it with all the paintings, and she's gonna do a performance piece there.
Oh, interesting.
So that's in the works.
Carol Orito. Carol, primarily a painter?
I don't know. I've done a lot of serigraphs.
You do a lot of printing pieces, Carol?
Not a lot, but I've done more serigraphs. Well, maybe that's about equal. Painting, serigraphs, photography, videography. I sing. I'm a jazz singer, but I'm not singing lately. I'm not famous. I've been doing these crazy drawings.
Carol, I'm going to go around to everybody now. Elisa, primarily a painter, but I've seen you work on objects.
No, I will. Yes, I define myself, just to make it easy, is a 2- and 3-dimensional art along with installations. Okay? And when I say 2 and 3, it's because I use a lot of mediums, a lot of natural elements, man-made. So it's 2 and 3-dimensional art, and I put my website on the chat. And
please, I would love to look at everybody's website. Elisa,
and also we can all look at each other, I think, on Instagram, most of us,
right,
with our names. I think that that's a way to just look at it.
Elisa, do you know the woman artist? Her name is Elizabeth Turk, Turk.
Yes, I know Elizabeth Turk. Yes.
Wow, knocks me out.
Okay, I'm happy that somebody knocks you out. That's a good thing.
Oh, her work is just spectacular.
Regina Silvers. Regina, you primarily a painter?
Well, I love to paint, but most of my paintings really start as drawing. Drawing's really important.
Yes.
I don't just want to put abstract. To me, abstraction is like doodling. I can do wonderful abstracts, and they don't really mean anything. And I really, I like to do work that has meaning. We don't have time, I would show you on the website, but when I was out hiking every weekend, I ended up doing landscape close-up of rocks and weeds and all the things that, that really mattered. And then when I stopped and I became more active because I was home, in the city longer, and I ended up doing a lot of political work because I was active politically, with the Granny Peace Brigade. So I like figurative work, but I don't like to just do a nude line, in art school kind of nude. I really want my figures to be involved. And so that lately, I've gone through stages where I looked from my balcony and I drew drawings, and then I turned them into big paintings. And now, as I said, I'm wandering around. I'm sort of sheltering and not going very much out of the neighborhood. So I'm sitting in the park and I'm drawing people, and I'm drawing at a dog walk, and I'm drawing people and dogs, and maybe they'll end up being paintings because I do love to paint also. So it's a combination.
Wendy, primarily a ceramicist or no?
Well, presently, yes. Presently, I'm working in clay, but it's hand-built sculpture, so I don't think of myself as, a potter. People associate ceramics with pottery and functional things, but I just enjoy the medium of clay. It responds well to me emotionally, and so yes, I'm working in clay right now, but before that, painting, drawings. At some future time, I'll share some of my paintings and drawings, just, for the heck of it. But I'd like to say to Larry that I really enjoy the fact how you do this spontaneous gestural work before you do the tighter, more realistic portraits, and that you connect the portraits to the more emotional, gestural, colorful, start. I really like that, how you combine those two things. It's good.
Thank
you. Nice. And my Instagram, I'll say, because it's not my name, because my name was already used, it's Life as Art by Wendy.
Life as Art by Wendy. Robin Halpern, just a brief description of your media materials or your painter.
Okay, I'd like to start with saying that I'm sorry, Larry, that I missed I had to take a phone call from my doctor, so I had to go offline, and I missed your presentation. So do you have anything online?
I have everything online.
Okay, what's your name?
My name is Larry, and the last name is spelled Aarons. My Instagram is Aarons Creative. My website is Larry, my last name, of course, Aarons, Aarons, art.com.
Okay, great. I'll take a look. Thank you.
Please, and by all means, on either my website or certainly on my Instagram, send me your guys, links, and I'll look at everything. It's too much to try and write everything down, but I would like to do that.
And Robin, your materials, painter?
Yeah, I would say primarily a painter. I like doing abstract work, which I got back into in the last couple of years. Prior to that, I did primarily faces, and I love doing faces, so I'm going to get back into that as well. I'm going to integrate the two. Yeah, and I like doing photography as well. It's sort of fun on a digital camera. When I started photography back in the 70s, I had that big, what was that called? A 4x6 or
well, the Rolex was 2 1/4.
Whatever the kind that you look down into.
Oh yeah, it was a 4x6 camera, of course.
4x6. That's how I started in the dark room and all that. So when digital came out, it was very interesting. So that's fun. And I'd like to expand on that as well. Yeah, so.
Lawrence, I know you as a photographer, but I wouldn't want to call you a photographer because I think you'd get mad at me, because Lawrence definitely works digitally, manipulates, and is quite a techno photographer, if there's such a term. But what would you say, just tell us a little about your history as an artist, what materials?
Well, first of all, I got to stop on the techno thing. I guess maybe I am, but I'm doing the techno stuff just to replicate what I used to be able to do in the darkroom. and more particularly in the color darkroom, where it's 3 times the options of the black and white darkroom. Anyway, I became an artist late in life at 22. I suddenly decided out of nowhere that I was going to learn to play the musical instrument. And within a few hours of buying my first musical instrument, I was on stage. And that happened because I got a 5-minute lesson. And it wasn't because I was so good at it. It was just that the 5-minute lesson was so good. And I suddenly realized, gee, you can metamorphosize in a lot less time than perhaps we were led to believe. And of course, that was 50 years ago or something. And at some point, I was very successful as a musician. And at some point, there was so much that was lost because all of our best performances were not recorded. They, blah, blah. And and then I started writing, and the more I wrote, the less money I made as a musician. So that was a big deal right there. And so there was a period of time where I picked up the camera to support myself as a musician. It was just, one of the backers of the band happened to be one of those big fashion houses at the time, and he said, listen, I need a photographer. You know how to work the camera? And I'm like, yeah, I guess. And all of a sudden, my pictures were being published every week in the back of the New York, the Sunday magazine section. Every week, a different picture. We had taken that 2 weeks before. At some point, I realized that I was having more fun at my job than I was at my music. I wound up switching just almost overnight, and it was really about feeling inspired by what Man Ray would have done. What would Man Ray do if he had this job?
I think Man Ray has inspired so many of us. Such a great artist, not just a great photographer in the dark room and what he did. He also did some amazing videos or short films, and of course, a painter. Duchamp famously sent Man Ray to New York City to see what's going on there in about 1915, 1920. And Man Ray responded, there's data everywhere. Just the action of the city was data to him. And he definitely had a unique perspective. He was quite a brilliant artist on so many levels, very, very diverse. There was a great show at the Jewish Museum maybe 10 or 15 years ago. Effie, I know you as a sculptor in clay and ceramics. We're just sharing all our materials, but you are also a painter and you run drawing groups, correct?
Right. And right now I'm working on figurative pastels, either indoors or outdoors. All summer I was outdoors in the park, and there were some sessions with a model, a clothes model. That's because I don't have a ceramic studio to work in right now, but I do figurative ceramic sculpture.
And I think what we get from this is, as with Larry's story, Lawrence Wheatman's story, it's the chance of somebody saying, hey, I need a photographer. It's the event of Effie saying, I don't have a ceramic studio now. So it's not always one course. For myself, I consider drawing different than painting. I do a lot of drawings. I do paintings in oils and acrylics. And I've done ceramics. And it's hard to say what are ceramics. Wendy's right. You call yourself a potter. Today's artists working in clay call themselves sculptors because they want to get as far away from the idea of doing a craft the American Craft Museum changed its name to the Museum of Arts and Design just to lose the word craft for all the wrong reasons, by the way. But I do like working in clay. It is one of the most, I recommend you all try it, not the wheel, just building. It is the most beautiful material. You can add to it, you can subtract. There's different stages of dryness. There is so much you can do and manipulate and get sculpture from. But yes, you can get cracking, you can get problems in the kiln. And when you do your first firing, then you've got a glaze. It's like, as a painter, you're finished and done. As a ceramicist or a sculptor working in clay, you finish the piece and then it's brought back to you and you gotta glaze it. It's like, oh my God, I gotta readdress all these things. So it's a very weird format of how you work the piece twice and how you layer the coloration with the object is, it's a very different field, but you can chip it, you can add to it. I love clay. I think it was great. That was a great question, Larry. I just like to say for all of us, we'd like to be your assistant and travel around the world on the cruises with you. You have 11 assistants ready to join you once COVID is gone. I think you found a great...
I will certainly be happy to give each of you one of those take-a-check numbers from that you would get at the grocery store.
Get online.
I mean, you found a great gig. You know,
I created it. It didn't exist before I made it happen.
So could you describe how it works?
What works?
How you work on the river cruises.
Certainly. Have you ever taken a river cruise? Anybody?
No, I haven't taken any cruise except Staten Island Ferry or the Circle Line.
Well, river cruises are, I think, the best form of travel because they literally have you no more than 50 to 100 yards away from your destination at any time. It's called the land on either side of the river cruise. Totally smooth. There are never any waves because the boat manages to go all along at the same time, at the same speed that the river is moving. So there's never a sense of undulation in the river cruise. So the reason I tell you that is so you understand what a river cruise is like. Most river cruises have no more than 125 to 150 guests, and 150 is on the high side. So there's a lot of intimacy in relationships with people. The river cruise can run in a week's time from 7 days to 14 days to 21 days. And I think there is ones that do a little bit longer. So let me answer your question now. It's very, very regimented. When you get up in the morning, your day is already planned for you. You know what is going to occur from the time you take breakfast till the time that you may choose to go to sleep. So that being said, there are only windows that allow me the opportunity to teach when the riverboat is moving, going from one destination to another destination. And that's when I do the classes. And I do classes both in portrait drawing and in watercolor. And I mix the classes and I limit the size of the classes because it's overwhelming to have more than 12 to 15 people in a class because I'm a very hands-on instructor. I sit with each person and give them the ability to really feel as if they are learning in a class. And their setting is beyond words gorgeous all the time because you're on the river and the scenery is constantly changing and the light is spectacular. So, and I make sure that everybody has wine. So
I think the key takeaway here is,
hey, what could be worse, right?
The key takeaway, Larry, this was not a job that was there that you applied for. This was a job that you made. You offered content to the riverboat cruises. You were creative in that sense. And, you know, it took you around the world. And that's what artists sort of have to do. You know, at one point I was working in hospitals locally in the South Bronx, And somebody there said to me, you know, there was a guy who was doing this, and then he traveled the world working at hospitals around the world,
Right.
volunteering, and then he wrote up a grant proposal. So we do have to take the bull by the horns and be creative. Sorry to cut us short. This was a great gathering, some great dialogue. We're the ATOA, and you are the ATOA. Thank you for being a part of this. We're a 501c3. You can visit our website, spread the word, tell artists, friends, anybody you know to come join us. It's always fun seeing regulars and new people. And thank you all for sharing. I'm Barry Kostrinsky. This has been great.
Thank you all. Nice meeting you all.
Nice to see you all.
Send me
Thank
comments
you,
after
Barry.
you look at my art.
Have a good week.
Okay, bye.
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 Bye. Good night.
Good night. Thank you, Wendy.
Bye.
Good night.